From Oraro Company Advocates, my name is Cindy Oraro, a partner in the firm's corporate and commercial practice.
And I'm Madikizela, Otieno, an associate at the firm.
And my name is Zahra Omar, also an associate at the firm.
So this is a bonus episode where we'll discuss what will hopefully be lighter matters, working at Oraro Company Advocates, and what it takes to record an OCO Roundtable podcast. Zahra and Madi are the people who came up with this fantastic idea of the OCO Roundtable podcast. So maybe you can tell us, what did it take to come up with this brilliant idea?
Zahra, I'll let you go first.
I enjoy listening to podcasts on my drives to work. I'm always sort of in search of just listening to good content. And the seed was sort of planted when we started to think about how law can be quite inaccessible. And it has a scary reputation to it for being complex and technical and difficult to understand. So we thought we'd be able to sort of break that narrative and break the rhetoric around law being inherently complicated and start to just have light conversations surrounding legal topics in a way that can reach a wider audience without necessarily having to go through a lot of reading as we ordinarily did in law school. So that was one of the intentions behind this podcast.
Yeah, I agree with Zahra. One of our main motivations for suggesting that Oraro and Company start a podcast was we thought as lawyers we could make some of the work that we do here a bit more accessible to non-lawyers and just people who are interested in topics and issues that we deal with on the day-to-day. And like Zahra said, podcasts are a very accessible means. You can listen to them in your car as you're doing your, chores in the house. It doesn't require you to sit down and read. So it's a very accessible means of interacting with the content. And I think for me, another reason was that putting out this type of content required us to do a lot of research and look into novel and exciting areas of law. And so I took up that challenge as well. And I thought it would be very fun and interesting thing to do.
Well, give us an insight. What does it take to record an episode for OCO Roundtable?
Cindy, I think you'd be better placed to answer that question.
Indeed.
Given that you are moderator of over 8 episodes of the inaugural season of OCO podcast, we'd like to hear from you. What does it take?
Well, I think as lawyers, we have kind of an occupational, I don't want to call it a hazard, but an inclination to be as perfect as possible. And I don't say that we achieve perfection, but we always strive for it.
Yes.
So that meant take 1, sometimes take 2, take 3.
Sometimes take 10.
Yeah, but what I can say is that we really enjoyed the conversations that we had, and it also opened our eyes as to just how exciting the work that we do is and the contribution it makes not just to our clients, but also to wider societal goals like addressing the effects of climate change. So it's been a great experience. It also gave us an opportunity to interact a lot more on a lighter note, apart from, the things we do outside the office to team build or just to spend time together. This was a very interesting opportunity to just leverage on, the relationships we have, good relationships, I would point, here in the office. So thank you. Thank you both for your work on this. And a lot of our other colleagues who are not seated here today, you know yourselves, you've been brilliant. And we are here having concluded the first season of OCO Roundtable because of you.
Yes. And before you proceed, Cindy, I think I would also like to give a shout out to our BD team who edit crows and all sorts of
ambulances
out of this podcast, because the raw product can be quite interesting to listen to. But I think what makes it out to our audience is almost perfect, which is what we want. And yeah, just wanted 100%. To put that out there.
Absolutely. Shout out Team BD.
Yes. Yeah. On a bit of a different note, Madi, Zahra, please tell us about your time at the firm. What has been your experience?
That's a very, very good question. I joined the firm as a pupil almost just shy away of 2 years ago. And the learning curve is exponential. And I say that in a very positive way. It's a very enriching experience. You get to interact with such brilliant experts in the field, and you get to interact with complex and high profile and technical legal cases across all our various teams. And you really challenge yourself and you surprise yourself with the sort of skills you have and the sort of skills that you can develop. And ultimately, it's a very well-rounded experience. And I'm very grateful to be sitting here and getting to work with such wonderful people who are both brilliant in terms of the expertise they have, but also just very, very kind and easy to work with.
I joined the firm about 2 years ago as a pupil. However, before that, as a student, I did have the chance to intern here. And yeah, so I feel like Oraro Company has been a part of my law career almost like most of my life. This is where I made the decision that I did want to be a lawyer just before I went to law school. And right after I decided to apply based on the great experience that I had had as an intern, I decided to apply here and come in as a pupil. I will say that my experience working here has been truly just a growth journey. I started not so sure that I even wanted to practice law. I had a law degree, but I thought, I might want to do something else. But interacting with the lawyers here, from the partners to the associates, and just seeing how seriously people took their work, how dedicated they were to it, how they always took an opportunity to learn from their cases, the way they interacted with their clients and their work. It convinced me. I was sold, and I decided I do want to practice and I do want to work as a lawyer. And so for anybody who is listening, who is maybe questioning, do they want to be a lawyer? Where do they want to do their pupillage? I would definitely recommend this firm because I think they take training young lawyers seriously. And I think they pour into you in terms of giving you work that is challenging, that will grow you, and as well as also believing in you and giving you room to work on your own. Right now, I'm a first-year associate, and I would say that once you demonstrate that you're able to do something, people do trust you to work a bit on your own and also grow. So all in all, I'd say my experience at the firm has been just great in terms of my career, and I'm very lucky to be working with the people that I've worked with here. Also, just getting to do something like OCO podcast is so amazing that idea was listened to, and also that, it got the chance to see the light of day. That's an amazing thing.
So for the sake of our listeners, Zahra and Madi happen to be friends.
Good friends.
Good friends. And I believed that relationship or friendship grew here at the firm.
Definitely, yes.
And I think it's testament to what you can achieve when you're working with a friend.
Definitely. It's really such a gift to meet like-minded people in the workplace. I think we don't take it for granted that we came here never having met before, and we just shared similar values. We were excited to learn, and we've just been each other's partners during this journey.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And there's nothing like a very good friend in a workplace. It's such a privilege. So we're very, very lucky.
And you're also demonstrating to all of us, it's a constant reminder that, we spend most of our time in the workplace. So we make this a happy place to work in just by the friendships that we develop.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Let's talk about some of the key takeaways from your time in practice. Both of you have spent time supporting teams that do complex litigation. What would you say is the biggest takeaway for you?
For myself, I would say, given that I'm currently in a disputes team, obviously most of my work is centered around litigation and arbitration. And because of also my experience in the corporate commercial team and also working with you, Cindy, in ESG matters, carbon trading, I can't help but see, the intersection of those two fields. So I think for me, I'm always thinking about how practice will look like in the next maybe 2, 5, 10 years. And I do see a very big space for litigation and disputes lawyers to kind of, grow their skills and increase their knowledge around climate action, ESG, because I think with the growing policy in this area and the growing demands actually on companies, corporates, individuals, when it comes to ESG reporting and just basically meeting their obligations towards net zero, I think there is possibly a lot of work coming in terms of disputes when people are not meeting their obligations, when people or companies, are not maybe adhering to the new framework. So for me, I just look at how can we as litigation lawyers try and broaden our understanding of climate justice, and how will we be ready for when these things become litigious and are now in dispute? Will we be ready to act?
I agree entirely with Maddie. I think as litigation lawyers, we do come at the point of dispute when a dispute occurs between parties. So what are we doing beforehand to sort of understand the nature of disputes that are likely to happen surrounding these particular areas that are gaining so much traction, sustainability and climate litigation, ESG principles, etc. And at the point that we do come in or are introduced into these disputes, what is the most effective and efficient way of resolving them? What platforms or what channels of dispute resolution are being adopted? We're seeing an increasing use of arbitration locally, and how that has been ultimately to the benefit of our clients, especially considering that it's a lot more efficient, it's a lot more quicker, and it's a lot more in control of the parties. So just sort of understanding the nature of these disputes and preempting some of the things that are likely to just sort of create a more efficient way for our clients to resolve their disputes.
So Maddie, you've worked with me on ESG, carbon trading, and energy matters, and you have a keen interest in these areas. What are you hoping to see in the long to midterm?
Yes, Cindy, I've had the opportunity to work with you on those areas. And I think basically from our work in that and also our research, I think what I'm looking to see is maybe more, especially in the carbon trading area, I would like to see the regulations to the Amendment Act come into force. This would be the Carbon Market Regulations 2023. They've not yet passed. I would like to see that come into force because I think at the moment we're not really sure how authorization, monitoring, and reporting of carbon credits will be done in a way that safeguards project developers, communities, and just all stakeholders involved. I would like to see those regulations come into force so that the practice is done in a more efficient fashion. I also look forward to seeing how, if and when disputes do arise from this emerging legislation around ESG, how this will be dealt with, especially with ADR seemingly being the chosen route for dispute resolution for most of these ESG matters. I'm excited to see how that will turn out.
So talking about complex disputes, in Kenya, we have had some high-profile arbitration cases in the energy sector. Zahra, what are your thoughts on the state of alternative dispute resolution in Kenya?
Thank you, Cindy, for that question. So alternative ADR or alternative dispute resolution are dispute resolution mechanisms that are outside our conventional ones, such as arbitration, mediation. And what we are witnessing is a growing era of parties opting for alternative dispute resolution mechanisms as opposed to going to court. Because what ADR does is that it allows parties to have a lot more control over their disputes and resolve them in an efficient and much quicker way. The only problem that we tend to notice with ADR is the cost element. ADR tends to be a little bit more expensive, such as arbitration, and this sort of disincentivizes parties from opting to go into ADR or opting for arbitration in their contracts. So what we want to start looking into is how to make ADR a little bit more accessible so that parties can feel comfortable putting it into their contracts in the event that a dispute arises and avoid clogging our court systems for the ultimate benefit of both parties.
Thank you, Zahra. Thank you, Maddie. It's been a pleasure doing this bonus episode with you. to the listeners, thank you for supporting our podcast. It's been a pleasure interacting with you. We know some of you take the time to write to us or call us. We're grateful for that.
Thank you, Cindy, for pioneering the inaugural season of OCO Roundtable. We'd also like to say a big thank you to the guests that joined us for the Energy series. And that will be all from us this season.
Stay tuned for our next season, which is already in the works. And we shall be shortly revealing our topic for our next season. In case of any questions, feedback, comments, please reach out to us on our social media platform using the hashtag OCO Roundtable, and we would love to get back and interact with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.